Welcome to the discipline entitled Fundamentals in Entrepreneurship. My name is Cătălina CRIFTAN. I'm Associate Professor at Babeș-Bolyai University at the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration, Management Department. And together we are going to discuss about entrepreneurship, more specifically about innovation and entrepreneurship. We will set the concept that you are going to use from now on during this course. Okay, let's see today's agenda. We are going to speak about the approach that we are going to use, the courses, and the evaluation method. And also we will discuss about what the meaning of entrepreneur, the advantages and disadvantages of being an entrepreneur. Also, we'll see that there are several perspectives in entrepreneurship, and I will take into consideration two criteria: the mission and the degree of innovation. Then we will discuss about innovation and problem solving. And during the third part of this course, we will set some key takeaways, and we will highlight the main conclusions. Also, we will do that together with a special guest, Brittany FLOYD. She is a former MBA student at the University of Rochester, New York. And based on his experience, I think that she can provide you useful insights regarding the meaning of entrepreneurship. Also, we are gonna discuss about the evaluation, and you will have, after this course, you will have the possibility and the opportunity to evaluate what you have learned during this course. Okay. So how will we do it? As you may know, you have access to this course through Microsoft Teams, and then all the materials that you will have access to will be available on the course website. The course website is danmirceasuciu.ro, Fundamente de Antreprenoriat. So here you will find slides of all courses, video recordings, and you will find also several references provided by academics and practitioners, the ones that will provide the courses. Academics and practitioners that you will have the opportunity to meet academics and practitioners, and this is an amazing opportunity, I would say, because they have a lot to say about the meaning of entrepreneurship, and also they have expertise that is going to be quite useful for those that want to follow the entrepreneurial path. Then what you have to know is that you already know the fact that this is a transdisciplinary course. So all the students from our university have the possibility to have access to this course. So in order to facilitate knowledge transfer, in order to provide the students the support they need, in each faculty, you'll have access to a tutor or more. It depends on the number of the students that choose this course. Also, during the courses that you are going to have access to, you have to know that you have an amazing opportunity to meet people, as I already told you, but also you will be able to meet students, colleagues that might complement you, and maybe you can work with them in order to develop a business concept. So if you want to take your business concept to the next level, at the end of this course, we recommend you to approach the tutors, and you have to come up with ideas that you want to follow. You will see that the tutors will provide you useful support to set the next steps. Okay. So in order to know more about the content that you will have access to, you have to know that this discipline gives you the possibility to have access to 13 courses, and this first course, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Definitions and Interdependencies, that is taking place in 4 languages right now will be the first one. And this course is going to be given in, so you will have this course in 4 languages, as I already told you, but the next courses are going to be available only in Romanian. Okay. So Tudor Mihai is going to provide you this course from problem to idea. He is business innovation consultant and trainer. I told you that through this course, through this discipline, you will have the possibility to meet many practitioners. So yeah, I think that this is quite an opportunity for you. Also, digital transformation is an important, has revolutionized the way entrepreneurship happens. So now without digitalization, we cannot speak about businesses. So definitely this is an important course. Dr. Bianca Muntean, co-founder and coordinator of Transylvania Digital Hub, will provide you useful information regarding this topic. Then market research, who are the potential customers and what are their expectations? Dafina Suciu, sales manager at Cluj Hub, will help you to identify your customers, target market, and in order to reach a product market fit. So another aspect that you have to take into consideration once you evaluate the market, and it's a key element, is how to set a competitive advantage. So you can do that by identifying your competitors, by knowing their core competencies and trying to compete with them successfully. Then, in order to have a strong team, in order to be successful, you have to have a strong team. So how to build a team, the roles that you have to have within a team. This is going to be a subject that you can discuss with, and you will discuss with Alexandru Roja, Head of Innovation and Digital Transformation at Transylvania IT Cluster. How to develop the business concept and how to structure your ideas is essential. So knowing how to create a business plan, it's a topic that is going to be addressed by Manuela Petrescu, and she will provide you useful information about this. How to launch a product, a minimum viable product. What is a minimum viable product? It's a product that has enough features, that provides enough value to the early adapters customers in order to provide that, and the customers can provide a feedback. So it's quite important to have an MVP just to be more agile and to adapt your product. Then Professor Dr. Daniel Metz, Chair of the Board of Directors at Entity Data Romania, will guide you. Public speaking, how to make a pitch, how to structure your ideas, how to convince people, investors, clients. It's quite important. So Cristina Bogățeanu, Executive Director at ROTSA, will help you and will teach you how to do it properly. We operate, as an entrepreneur, you will operate on a market. You will meet and you will have the opportunity to interact with different stakeholders. So these stakeholders can provide you useful support in case, if you know how to approach them, they will accelerate your business. So Mircea Vădean, founding board member at Transylvania Angel Network, will teach you about ecosystem, entrepreneurship ecosystem, and the growth opportunities available to you. Also knowing how to identify the right source of money and the opportunities, founding opportunities, is another topic that is going to be addressed during this discipline. Agility, being flexible, we always talk about that, but this is not an easy task. So first of all, the entrepreneur has to know and has to identify the trends, but he or she has to know how to adapt that change and how to implement change, and how to develop activities, operations. Agile project is a topic that Mircea Suciu will teach you about. And the last course, specialized subject. So it's a course that is going to take place in each faculty. Actually, the tutors will help you. Your tutor from each faculty will approach you, and during this course, will he or she or the tutors will help you to see the synergy between your specialization and entrepreneurship. And during this course, you will have access to entrepreneurs that operate in your area. So, and also during this course, you will have the opportunity, because I told you previously that you can develop during this course some ideas, and I'm pretty sure that you will do that. So during this last course, you will be able to validate your concepts and discuss with entrepreneurs and ask for advice. Okay. So another thing that you have to know is that after each course, you will have a quiz, access to a quiz. This questionnaire is going to be available to you starting with 7 and 30. I will tell you, even after this course, you will have this. This exam. What you have to know is that it's a simple quiz that consists of 5 questions and is going to be, as I already said, for 30 minutes. So you will have the possibility to reach the entire semester to obtain 70 points. And the final grade formula is, as you may see on this PowerPoint slide, as follows, which means that even if you miss 1 or 2 courses, you can get a good score. Okay. So if you have questions up to this point, you can ask me. If not, think about the questions, write them down, and then at the end we will have a Q&A session. We are going to start to discuss about innovation and entrepreneurship and definitions and interdependencies. Before starting, I would like to highlight Peter Drucker's quote: "The best way to predict the future is to create it." So entrepreneurship gives you this opportunity to create your own future, because once you identify something that you want to develop, a new product, a new idea, a new concept, and if you rely on your competencies, on your hobbies, you will have a great opportunity to do what you enjoy the most. And once you do what you like, you will never have to work a day in your life. So yeah, you can create your own destiny through entrepreneurship. So let's speak about some definitions regarding the term entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur is one of the first definitions that we used in order to describe the term entrepreneur is the following. The entrepreneur is an individual in charge of arranging and conducting exploratory and military expeditions, meaning that they are courageous, they are trying to do new things. The idea is that they are courageous and willing to change something. And constantly they are searching for new things. So the most often associated name with the term of entrepreneur is the ones of Joseph Schumpeter, who describes or considers the entrepreneur an innovator who leads the creation, destruction process of capitalism. So they are behind the economic progress. They are trying to come up with new approaches. They are change agents, as it is presented here, ensuring the continuity and the development of the economy. One of a complex definition is provided by Scarborough. So the entrepreneur is a person who creates a new business, a new organization, facing the risk and uncertainty to achieve profit, okay, and growth, of course. and they rely on the opportunities and assembling the necessary resources in an innovative way. So innovation is a core element of the entrepreneurial process. According to our legislation, so the law 133 per 1999, the term entrepreneur is an authorized individual. Pay attention to this definition, okay, my colleagues. It's an authorized individual or a legal entity who by themselves or through association with other authorized individuals or legal entities incorporate a company in order to engage commercial activities. Okay, the purpose is to have or to reach profit through producing goods and delivering services. And of course, they have to operate on a competitive market. So if you take a look at the successful entrepreneurs, we will see that they have a quite complex profile. And the characteristics frequently exhibited by entrepreneurs are the ones that we are going to discuss about. So being optimistic. So optimism, it's a quality, a needed quality. It's very important the way you perceive things. If you see opportunities where others see failure, this means that you have something, you have a key element, and you have higher chances to be successful. Also, being optimistic is a required quality, mainly because successful entrepreneurs they have most of them have failed in businesses more than once before being successful. They show high responsibility for the output of their businesses. They are more likely to look ahead, they are future-oriented, and they are less concerned with what they done yesterday than with what they might do tomorrow. Also, self-discipline is a trait that is needed, okay, because they must push themselves forward. And in most of the cases, they face despite the difficulties that they are facing. Yeah. Another thing that we have to consider is perseverance. Being perseverant is another trait that has to be considered. They have to keep walking, okay, against the difficulties that they are facing. Flexibility. They have to adapt constantly to market needs, market trends, customer needs, and they have to change. In most of the cases, they have to change their initial assumptions and their perspectives. So change is not an easy task, and they constantly, this requires learning. And another thing that we have to highlight here is that that entrepreneurs have to determine others to change as well and to follow his vision or her vision. Charisma, it's relevant, knowing how to determine how to make people to follow his perspective, his vision, knowing how to communicate, how to transmit, how to convince people, how to develop trustworthy relationship is also something that is extremely relevant. Taking risks, they are risk eliminators, and they are energetic, and they are more energetic than an average person. And they have to be eager to learn, because if they have this attitude, they learn from their mistakes, because they might fail several times, and successful entrepreneurs have had several failures. So if they learn from their mistakes, they will improve themselves always. Looking for the feedback and it's another element that we have to take into consideration. I'm not saying that they have to measure everything through money, but they have to evaluate the effect, the results of their actions, just to know how to do it and how to improve themselves. And let's continue with the elements that we should, key elements that we should take into consideration in entrepreneurial path. And I will start with the mindset. What's the mindset? It's once we refer to a mindset, we refer to the set of attitudes that values, beliefs that influence the behavior of an individual. And once you have a growth mindset, this means that you will try to, constantly try to do new things. You will be open to learn new things. Of course, once you do things that you never done before, failure might occur. And this is a part of the process. So having a growth mindset is essential. This is actually the first step that we have to take into consideration. Knowledge. Once you are doing new things, definitely you will have the opportunity to interact with people, to learn from people, from experiences. And this, in order to be successful, you have to keep learning. So never stop learning. Develop capabilities, competencies. Theory is important, but you have to know how to develop expertise, and you can do that only by trying. And community, the fourth element that I will highlight here. Once I'm referring to the community, I'm referring to the fact that the entrepreneur has to develop networks, relationships with different stakeholders, employees, suppliers, clients. So at this point, it's so very important to know how to convince people, how to develop trustworthy relationships, how to develop social capital and relations. The benefits of being an entrepreneur, there are many, yeah, you have the opportunity to create your own destiny. You can do what you enjoy the most. You can make a difference by introducing a new product, a new process that makes the difference, that changes the life of others. Also, you can reach your full potential, because once you invest your money and your family, in most of the cases, then you will be highly motivated to invest and to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. In many cases, at least at the beginning, this is a norm. And another thing that we have to consider is that you will be able to make impressive profits and to contribute to the society and be recognized for the effort. Once we see successful entrepreneurs, we always see the bright side of their success. Yeah, entrepreneurs are among the most successful or appreciated people in their community due to their contribution, due to the impact on their communities. Also, you can do what you enjoy and have fun at it. At the beginning of the course, I recommended you to take a look on the competencies that you have or the hobbies that you have, and try to rely on those once you develop your business concept. Of course, there are many disadvantages that we have to consider. So uncertainty of income, this is something that can happen. Many managers they decided to leave their jobs from their corporations, and then once they started a business, they weren't so happy with the income, at least at the beginning of their activity. Also, long hours and hard work as I previously said, the norm will be to work a lot, 24 hours a day sometimes. And also, there is a risk of losing your entire investment. And here every entrepreneur should calculate the risk. And always, there are some recommendations that they should take into consideration. They have to evaluate themselves, their potential, and if they are, and figure it out if they are truly prepared to launch a business, if they have enough knowledge, expertise to start a business, or do they need more time to learn about it, how to start a business. Also, in order to lower the risk, a recommendation would be to find a job in that specific domain that you want to start. Okay. But of course, once you start a business, before starting a business, another advice would be to have a plan B. What is going to happen? To set some, to have some solutions in order to lower the risks. Okay. Another drawback that we should consider here is lower life quality until the business gets established, because working a lot, being successful as an entrepreneur, you have to work a lot. So this implies a lot of stress, and sometimes the personal life will have a lot to lose. Discouragement, anxieties, high level of anxiety, and also another thing, complete responsibility. If the business doesn't go as is planned, then complete responsibility might be a problem. So being an entrepreneur and being an the process of entrepreneurship. So we have seen up to now that we have to identify opportunities. We have to consider the fact that there is a risk that we have to take into consideration. So, I would like to highlight the fact that every entrepreneurship process starts with a need on the market. So people spend money if they want to solve a problem. So if they want to get rid of a suffering, okay? So imagine yourself waking up in the morning with a terrible headache or a problem or terrible flu. Everything that you wanted to do during that day will go on a secondary basis. So at this point, solving the problem is going to be your top one priority. So what is also an aspect that you should take into consideration when you want to start a business is to take a look at what makes people what gives individuals satisfaction. So this is another way to start from. Okay, of course, once you identify a need on the market, a problem that you want to address, then innovative ideas will come up into your mind. Although many of us have brilliant ideas, business ideas, very few are able or willing to build on their ideas. So there is a need of a trigger, or triggering event is also called. That factor that drives entrepreneurs to put their ideas into practice. So trigger might be associated with divorce, with let's say with a certain conflict at your job. Let's say this might be another trigger, or other examples. So this is an event that makes the individual to take action. The implementation stage. What happens during the implementation stage? Normally, the entrepreneur has to develop his business concept or her business concept and put together his ideas. Lean startup is a way to reduce the risks during this implementation. Lean startup means that during this stage, actually it's a process, I will call it, a process that gives you the possibility to validate your business concept with real customers. And how you can do that? By discussing with customers your business idea, okay? By asking for feedback, ideas, recommendations in order to update your concept. Because once you start the business, you rely on your own assumptions, but you have to validate those assumptions with those that will buy in order to know if they are willing to buy such a product or service. Next step is the startup. So during the startup, you create an organization. But what you have to know that once you have a startup, this doesn't mean that you have a company, because many startups, many startups die during the first 2 years of life. So in the first 2 years, more than 60% might not succeed. 60% of businesses might not succeed. Next step, the growth. So during this stage, the organization gets well established. So and during this stage, we can say that the business or the entrepreneur is trying to develop the range of products and might find new markets for their products. Okay, maturity stages can be associated with maturity in life. In people's life. So at this point, the business gets well established. And many entrepreneurs do not stay with the business up to this point. And they are called serial entrepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs that want to create a business, they launch the business and they ensure its growth. And then they sell the business and they start the process all over again. So they are called serial entrepreneurs. Next, and the last stage is harvest. So harvest can be associated with picking a fruit after years of labor. So during this stage, we have to consider that the ownership can be transferred to employees via employee stock ownership. At the same time, it can be associated with a merger, or you can sell the business through IPO, initial public offering, and so on. But this is a positive scenario. But if the situation or the business doesn't go as it should, this harvest can be associated with failure. Okay. So next slide that I would like to highlight here. At the beginning of the course, I told you that I will highlight some perspectives. And one of these perspectives in entrepreneurship is the one of Bill Outlet and from MIT. And he identifies two categories of organizations: small, medium enterprises and innovation-driven enterprises. What's the difference between these two? So the degree of innovation. A small and medium enterprise normally rely on delivering products or that are not so innovative, mostly services. These organizations address local and regional markets. They, because the initial capital is not so big, most of them are family businesses or imply sole proprietorship. What happens with the revenue, cash flow, and jobs? So once the business grows, the revenue, cash flow, and jobs are increasing up to a certain point, and then it gets linear. Okay. Next, the difference. Once we refer to innovation-driven enterprise, we have to have in mind examples such Netflix, Uber, UiPath. Okay, those organizations, those companies that rely on innovation, new technologies, new products, and of course, and research and development. So in order to be successful, in order to create a successful product that incorporates high innovation, you have to invest more. So more diverse ownership is required. And as I said, product or innovation is at the core. Once the product is successful, then the growth is going to be exponential. So the focus is going to be on regional and or global markets. So in order to have an IDE, innovation-driven enterprise, we have to know how to combine technology essentials and business essentials. Well, so engineers, scientists can or have higher chances to come up with innovative products, but they have to know how to reach product market fit, how to sell that product, how to prove that the value that the new product, the product that they have created is successful. Okay, once we refer to, I told you that it's so very important to be able to, in order to be innovative, it's an important aspect to be able to combine people with different competencies, to work together with people that have different backgrounds, different knowledge, because this is a valuable source of innovation. Interdisciplinary collaboration is a key element in innovation. It's not an easy task because everybody would do it if it would have been easy. It requires complex abilities. But what you have to know is that if you want to develop an innovation-driven enterprise, you should have competencies from finance, marketing. You have to have a good technician, IT specialist, and you have to know how to manage all this complexity. Okay. So just to have an idea regarding the activities and the stages that you have to take into consideration once we are referring to innovation-driven enterprises, the whole process, the entrepreneurship process, in order to reach a startup, you will have to consider the following stages. So research and development implies, first of all, documentation, laboratory research, validation in laboratory, operationalization in real environment. Why is that? Because why it's important? Because once you create something in a laboratory, the scientists or the features of the product might be quite complex. And in the real world, you will see that the customers don't want to use it because it considers the product too difficult to use. Okay. Research after operationalization. This is something that has to be continued because once you put the product, once you test the product in a real environment, then you will find problems, mistakes that has to be updated. Okay. And the research and development is a continuous process. Validation, identify experts, testers, to give you feedback. Okay, but you have to know how to manage all this content, all this knowledge, and how to know how to use it and how to make it available to those that need it in a real time, in an efficient way. Also create an open validation channel to be more agile and to be able to adapt your product or that you've created. Okay. Market research. This is a major component because once you launch a product, once you want to create once you launch a product that incorporates technology, you have to take into consideration the macro environment. you might identify some opportunities, but there are some threats that you have to consider. So political, economical, social, technological, ecological, and logical and legal factors, are very important to be analyzed. Industry analysis, evaluate the clients, who are your competitors, if you have substitutes on the market, if you identify new entrants. Also, you have to know who are your suppliers, their bargaining power, and so on. Main competitors, knowing who are those that you have to deal with, and because it's essential, because you have to develop your strategy in order to gain a competitive advantage. Prototyping and intellectual property. So you have to, the prototyping involves prototype functionality in the market, lab testing, prototyping functionality, and of course, resolving non-compliances and improving the product. Intellectual, the prototype. Intellectual property, be aware and try. This is very important to have control over the portfolio. Develop your portfolio is also important, and this is a step that unfortunately many entrepreneurs have been able to identify and to create something new. They thought that that thing was new, but once they have evaluated the available patents, that they saw that others had similar ideas. So you should evaluate the patents available on the market before. Once you have an idea, you should start from there as well. Okay. Business model. Canvas business model is a tool that can help you a lot, because business model is actually it helps you to structure your ideas and to see the processes of rationalization, the processes, activities that you have to consider, the implications, the key elements that you have, the resources, and so on. And this is a document that has to be updated constantly, because the business changes and relationships change, and definitely this will, in order to be flexible, you have to do it. Scaling up, the growth of the business involves portfolio development, market expansion, and creating a product line. And strategic management, how to manage everything efficiently. So as I said, multidisciplinary team is an aspect that will provide you core competencies. Knowledge management, it's more important than ever, knowing how to create content, valuable content, how to manage it, how to make it available to your employees, to important or key stakeholders. Okay? Strategic partnerships, setting relationships with stakeholders, and being able to develop social capital. Another approach that we have to take into consideration is the one that divides organizations, entrepreneurship, into commercial entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. I wrote some articles based on this. So in case you want to read more about what the meaning of social entrepreneurship, you have you have some articles on Google Scholar and academic, and I will recommend you to read them. What is the difference between these two? So social entrepreneurship, in order to once we refer to social entrepreneurship, social and environmental mission defines the success. Okay, while we are referring to commercial entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship, the size of the profit highlight the success of the organization. What it has to be highlighted here is that in the last couple of years, there has been a boost of social enterprises. So social economy grew significantly, and and there are some numbers here. 13.6 million jobs were created, and over 2.8 million social enterprises were created in the European Union. So this highlights the fact that this is social entrepreneurship provides, it's a new trend. It's not completely new, but it seems that the interest in social entrepreneurship has increased significantly. So what we have to take into consideration is that the primary mission is to create social, cultural, environmental value, and not the financial interest of the entrepreneur or the investors is a priority. Also, it serves the needs of vulnerable groups and helps them to integrate into our social systems by providing opportunities, business opportunities. You have here some sources of information, some examples in case you want to reach more data about it. Who is a social entrepreneur? Definitely, it's a special kind of person that is motivated by social gain, is highly innovative and creative, and he has lower levels of self-interest. A quote that I like it very much, Bill Drayton says, the founder of Ashoka, one of the oldest foundations that support social entrepreneurship, he says that social entrepreneurs are not content to just give away the fish or teach others how to fish, but they will not rest until they revolutionize the fishing industry. So yeah, another thing that we have to take into consideration, once we are referring to social entrepreneurs, we are not referring only to those that create self-sustainable businesses or organizations that address social mission. But we are referring also to those people that support and help others to change their status by developing an organization, a business. Okay. So once we refer to social entrepreneurship, we should have in mind the following concepts. So at the beginning of the course, I told you about the mindset. Sustainability mindset means that we are referring to those set of beliefs and attitudes that show respect for the social justice. And of course, once you have these values in mind, all your actions will be accordingly, and the impact will be, of course, will support the social change and social impact and sustainability. Also, we have to take into consideration the inclusive community. We are different. Some are more fortunate than others. So once we are an inclusive community, we value our members, the members of our community. And an inclusive community supports people that are less fortunate. There are groups that are vulnerable, okay? Social change is a part of the process. Social change implies actually supporting the development of vulnerable groups, providing them opportunities to support themselves through self-sustainable mechanisms. And social innovation, meaning that you come up with new ideas, behaviors, products, processes that are meant to create social impact. Just to have an idea about the difference, social entrepreneurship and commercial entrepreneurship, not-for-profit organizations are the ones that support social entrepreneurship in Romania. not-for-profit organization. In this category, I will include traditional non-profit organizations that rely mostly on volunteers, donations, sponsorships. And entrepreneurial non-profit organizations. I include here in this category those organizations that are capable to develop economic activities besides the support provided through voluntary actions and donations. They can sell products, deliver products in such a way to support the business, the organization. And social enterprises are those hybrid organizations that are capable to create a self-sustainable mechanism. And they sell products on the market. They hire vulnerable people from vulnerable groups, and they are highly competitive on the market, are capable to be profitable, and they address a social problem. Just to say a few words about the social economy organizations. They serve, according to our legislation, we have a law issued in 2015. And this social economy organization serves social and environmental purposes. They allocate 90% of the profits to address or to respond to social mission. And if the things are not going properly, we have to know that they have to transfer the assets to another CEO, social economy organization. What has been seen is in the non-profit sector, more and more organizations are trying to find sources, financial sources, in order to have higher independence. So they develop economic activities. Some of them create spin-offs, separate entities. In many cases, they are limited liability companies. They develop the economic activities, they generate income, and the surplus is donated to the NGO that created them. But another reason to create a spin-off would be because the new created organization might grow much faster, or when you have a completely or a new product that is too different to be integrated into organization activities. Another thing that I have to mention here is the fact that in Romania, in the last couple of years, the number of social enterprises increased significantly. There is an estimated number of 6,000 social enterprises up to now, but only 133 of them had official accreditation. Why is that? Because in Romania, these social enterprises do not have too much support coming from other organizations, and it's much more easier for them to create limited liability company and to act as a social enterprise because there are not so many restrictions. Okay, so we will see. Maybe the law is going to change in the future, and I expect this to happen. Okay. Regarding, I would like to highlight some examples that are relevant in entrepreneurship here in Romania, and we have many social enterprises, NGOs that actively support social entrepreneurship. And one of these social entrepreneurs is Angela Achite. If you have interest in this, I will recommend you to contact this entrepreneur that I will tell you about. If you want to find out more, you can contact me, and I will help you and I will provide you the data you need. Alături de Voi, ADV, is a foundation that has contributed to the development of more than 100 social enterprises. IDV has its own social enterprises. Untitled is a social enterprise that creates protecting equipment, and it hires people from vulnerable groups. Job Direct is a best job for vulnerable groups. And also Wise Travel is an online travel agency. They already, Angela Kite, together with her colleagues, they started Academia ADV in 2018, and they have, through this Academia, they want to raise the knowledge regarding what social entrepreneurship is and how it can be promoted. Also, they have created an accelerator for social enterprises. Tika Daria is another example. If you want to take a look on his site, this social entrepreneur has evolved significantly. He studied in Denmark. He came back to Roșia Montana and he started this business, social enterprise, giving the opportunity for a job to many women from Roșia Montana. Also, Camelia Gui, a former student of our faculty, the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration, together with an amazing team, they created Food Waste Combat. This is an organization that fights against food waste. Somaro, it's a social store. So Simon Sweetner came from Austria and he started several social stores here in Romania in order to provide support to vulnerable groups to have access to cheap food. But on the other side, he has a major impact on the food waste due to his programs. Also, Diana Certan is another example. Concordia is a reference in social entrepreneurship. They have a bakery and a bed and breakfast where people from vulnerable groups can, or from orphanages, they can find a job in order to facilitate their integration on the labor market. And also Recicleta, Doris Tavride. This is a project or social enterprise created by Viitor Plus. And you will see that they have done amazing things. Let's continue. I would like to speak a little bit about innovation and problem solving. Up to now, we have seen that innovation is an important part of the entrepreneurship process. But an entrepreneur, once he wants to start a business, he or she relies on their assumptions. So it's very important, as I already said, that to validate the business concept with real customers. So market pool is a way to do it. So you have to go on the market and identify a problem. So you have to find a problem and come up with ideas, solutions to solve that specific problem. Then another possibility is the technology push. The technology push, this is an approach used by engineers, by scientists. They create an invention, and after that, they see if the product is can reach product market fit. Okay, and then another thing that we have to take into consideration is that there is a major difference between creativity, innovation, and an invention. So creativity is the ability to create innovative ideas, okay? To discover new ways, to approach problems, to solve problems, to create new opportunities, to make use of the existing opportunities. Once you put your ideas into practice, you create something, a method, a composition, or a process, or a novel device. So this is called an invention. In order to have the right to use an invention, you need a patent. Okay, this will give you the possibility to sell it or to use it. Okay, but what what you have to know is that invention and innovation are not terms that are interchangeably. Okay, so innovation is actually an invention that is commercialized. What does it mean? So if this an invention is sold on the market, it's very important to have customers, and the customers will buy that product only if they see the potential, okay, of that, and they see the value of the product. So innovation means that you have to know how to commercialize an invention. And of course, innovation happens when unfulfilled needs are discovered. These situations can occur in unexpected contexts. When you find unconformities, you might do an experiment and you might expect an output, but you can get another. But once you see and once you evaluate it, you see that has a good potential, but in other conditions, in other contexts. Industry market structure can provide opportunities, demographic changes, also the change in perception, the way COVID-19 changed ourselves. We have seen that we appreciate more things that in the past we didn't. So another thing that we have to consider, another source would be the new knowledge invention. Okay, so there are some questions that you have to take into consideration. You have to take a look on your customers' main difficulties, because you have to identify a real problem on the market, and you have to come up with solutions. And you have to validate those solutions with your customers. You have to evaluate what makes your customer feel bad, or what are the customer's fears, in order to address them, in order to create the product accordingly. So how to promote creativity to reach innovation? There are many ways to do that. So at this point, we have to consider that you have to encourage diversity. We've talked about it. Learn from any experience that you have. Failure gives you important lessons. You have to see what you have, what are your gaps, and once you have failed, this means that you have to see it as an opportunity. Capitalizing on hobbies you have. Encourage creative thinking and encourage your employees. If you have to give them the opportunity to test, to experiment. Experimentation will lead to failure. Of course, you don't have the right recipe from the beginning, so accept failure. Also, perceive problems as an opportunity to change, to improve, to grow, to develop. And develop internal procedures for capturing recommendations, because you, as an entrepreneur, you might not be always available for your employees to provide you feedback. Okay, so develop an internal tool to capture all these recommendations. Become a member of a learning community. What is a learning community? A group of people that have similar interests, and once you join such groups, you are more likely to learn from others, to improve yourself, discuss problems with customers, suppliers, business partners, stakeholders that can provide you valuable information. Okay, and also study the patents available. Okay, and also take a look on those that already expired, because this can provide you useful source of information. Okay, it's for free. Some recommended books in case you want to develop your knowledge, and I'm pretty sure that you will. You will find very interesting the following books: Talking to Humans, Build Better Brains. I kindly recommend you to read them. Also, Essentials of Entrepreneurship and Small Business Management and Small Business Management, Entrepreneurship and Beyond. Some key takeaways. Okay, so entrepreneurship is a team sport. So at the beginning, we might come up with innovative concepts by ourselves, but we have to work together with others. So collaboration is very important. It requires common vision, shared values, and complementary skills. You have to be passionate about what you are doing. Okay, once you start a business, take a look on your competencies, your hobbies, and start from there, considering the problems that you will address. And also, you have to know that entrepreneurship can be learned. So you can become a successful entrepreneur only through experimentation. And the purpose of entrepreneurship is value creation. So we have seen through this course that from economical and cultural point of view, there are many perspectives, but it's so very important to know what entrepreneurship means to you, okay? Based on the skills, based on what you want to do, based on your expectations, based on your vision, okay? In 5 minutes, you will have access to a quiz, yeah? It's gonna be open, but you have to know that in the corner, you can choose the language, okay? Romanian, German, English, and Hungarian. So don't forget that, and choose the language that you want in order to make the test. And another thing, the evaluation is going to be activated. We have 5 minutes left up to that moment, and I will inform you. I hope that Brittany is here with us. Brittany, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
So happy. How are you, Brittany?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. I will make a brief introduction about Brittany. She's, from my point of view, an amazing person. I had the opportunity to meet her 1 year ago. She's a serial entrepreneur, an MBA former student at the University of Rochester, Simon Business School. She's a serial entrepreneur. She has several startups. She was involved in several startups. She's also a social entrepreneur. She had this experience, and I would like to ask her about this experience. Of course, you can ask her questions. And also, what I want to tell about her, she self-founded 4 travel-related startups, and she is a junior analyst. She was a junior analyst for Simon School Venture Fund. You have this position now, Brittany?
No, I'm all done. Yeah, so
okay.
I was an analyst on the Simon Venture Fund, and then the next year I ended up being the VP of People Ops. So not really in the weeds, just trying to kind of foster the right connections for our folks. But yes, it was an incredible opportunity. So still very relevant.
Nice. So great. So Brittany, can you tell us a little bit about you yourself as an entrepreneur, just to give the audience a brief overview based on your experience as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to say that I apologize in advance if my phone rings. I have a couch being delivered today, and they gave me the biggest window of delivery that ever existed. And so I do apologize if my phone rings.
No worries. No worries.
But yeah, so essentially, I kind of call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I was led mostly by passion for traveling. When I was about 15, I went to Italy for the first time with my choir, and I got to travel and see, different parts of northern Italy. And then when I got to undergrad, or when I was studying for my bachelor's, I studied abroad in England. And from there, sorry, my team is pinging me. I do apologize in advance. So then when I was getting my bachelor's, I did a study abroad program in England for a year. And that year I traveled to 9 countries. You know how it is. when you're in Europe and you're in that part of the world, you can use discount airlines to fly everywhere, like Ryanair and EasyJet and things like that. So I loved everything about that. I got back home to my small town in Michigan. I grew up in the Midwest. I don't know how much you know about the US and our different, very distinct regions, but I grew up in the Midwest, which has its own kind of, it's more of like a blue collar working class community. And so we don't travel a whole ton, not at large, especially people who are like me, who grew up as a minority in the US, as well as a low income family. And so I got this unique opportunity to go abroad, and I ended up just loving it so much that I became a flight attendant. And I was maybe 2 years into being a flight attendant, and people kept asking me the same questions. And I'm someone who like is very process oriented, and I like to like improve things and keep being more efficient. And so people kept asking me about Paris, about Frankfurt, about all these places that I had visited. And so then I started a blog. But yeah, so essentially I spent all this time in my early 20s just traveling a ton. And like I said, I started this blog not to be a blogger, but really just as a resource for the same questions I was getting about what to do in Paris and what to do in Berlin. And so I created this, and then people started reading it, and then they asked me like, hey, like I really like the way that you travel, can I just come with you? And at the time I was like, okay, sure. I'm just like, the more the merrier. That's a term we use here a lot, but I'm just like, okay, let's go have some fun. And so I was doing this for about maybe 6 months, just taking people with me whenever I went places. And I was in Colombia, and I took a group of maybe 14 people. And my friends actually pulled me aside and they said, hey, you actually do a lot of work here. You put together these really incredible itineraries. We should be paying you. Stop doing this for free. You have a business. You are built for this. Stop doing that. And so then once I had that conversation, I thought about it and I was like, wow, okay, maybe I do have a business. And at the time, there were a lot of Black entrepreneurs who were stepping into the group travel space. And so there was definitely an opportunity for me to take some of that market share and to figure out how to differentiate myself. And it was a little hard at the beginning trying to figure out what that looked like. But I think that, like, you just have to kind of give it a shot and you just refine as you go along. And so I kind of jumped into entrepreneurship, not really knowing anything about entrepreneurship or what it meant to really build a business. And all I knew is that I had a product that people really liked. And every trip that I did, even until my retirement last year, was sold out. And so I clearly was creating a product that they enjoyed. The hardest part, though, was really just understanding how to scale it. And I think that as an entrepreneur, I think that there's one bit of you learning how to run the business, and then another one in how you kind of scale it and make it so that it can exist even without you being there. And so I think that, yeah, so that's how I got started. And there's a ton of challenges after that I'm grateful for. Honestly, you learn from them. But I got started really by accident. It was just that I was writing blogs to be more practical because I didn't want to say the same responses to 7 people asking me about Paris. And then it ended up turning into something way bigger than that. And then I also leveraged my social media platforms. So back in the day when everyone used Facebook a ton, Facebook and Instagram were probably my biggest marketing tools for my trips. And I used a lot of email marketing to kind of chat with them and like let people know what was available. But yeah, I got started kind of on a whim. But then once I started, I realized that I had all these skill sets that I didn't ever recognize. And it actually ignited something inside of me that has now led me to start 4 businesses. I got an MBA, which is, where I met your professor when she came to Simon or to University of Rochester. And so it set me on a long path of serial entrepreneurship and trying to really figure out what that looked like for me and how I wanted to live my life and how do I incorporate that. And so it's been a really awesome, crazy journey, but I'm really thankful. And right now, even though I'm not operating my group travel company anymore, because the pandemic, if you can imagine, was really tough on small travel businesses. I still do have a travel game company. It's for board and table games that I have been working on. And so that's pretty much where I am right now, is just really fleshing out that product. But yeah, that's my introduction. I don't know if that was good enough.
Yes, it's wonderful. I want to ask you if you used some role models. Once you started the businesses, did you consider some people in your life that influenced you significantly? And also, I know a little bit about your family background. Please tell me, how important are these references in the entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when I first started, I didn't really reflect so much. But now that I look back, I realized that I had a ton of entrepreneurial examples in my family. And just to be very transparent, my family, like I said, we grew up very low income. And in the US, like that, that's relative, of course, but we use government assistance. And my mom, she worked majority of her career in service, so working as a maid or a cook, or working with children. And so very domestic like jobs. My stepfather was a construction worker. And so when you come from a family like that, you kind of feel like, oh, like I'm just going to be a worker. But then when you actually peel the layers back, I realized that my mom was probably the most entrepreneurial person that I ever met. She just didn't make a lot of money doing it, but she was always, making things happen. So she went to beauty school when she was when she just got out of high school. And so she knows how to do like African hair braiding and all these different types of styles. And so she kind of ran like a little salon outside of our house. And then she also worked her normal job, and then she'd pick up other jobs doing babysitting gigs. And she's always had these different kinds of jobs. And then she was also creative. And so she made these children's books. And so I think that being the child of a woman like that, I think you can only ever just make things happen. And you don't really, like, there's limits, but you just find a way. And then I also had an uncle who owned a sandwich shop, who I always highly respected. And I felt like he was the one in our family that really figured out how life worked. And he was like a railroad guy. Like he worked for Amtrak here in the States, which is like our national rail service. And then he also had a sandwich shop. And so I did have some early kind of entrepreneurial kind of inspiration, even if I didn't even realize it. I think that sometimes you don't even realize what you're being influenced by. And then once I did decide that I was going to be an entrepreneur, I surrounded myself with entrepreneurs in my circle. And so I had a lot, there's a big community in Detroit of entrepreneurs. It's like there's a few cities around the US that have really been producing the most entrepreneurs, especially women of color. Or Black women, and Detroit is one of those. And so I ended up being able to connect with people in my university from my undergrad, and I got to connect with a ton of people in the Detroit area and also in Philadelphia where I was living. There's big creative entrepreneurial communities where people share resources, where you can hire them for their services, or you can, kind of trade services and things like that. And so in the beginning, I just was really tapping into my own personal networks and the people that I knew that were already doing it, and trying to get some kind of gauge on what I should be doing, how I should be setting it up. And then the last thing was just using the internet as a resource to figure out, well, if I'm starting a business, what do I need to know? What legal implications, what tax, how should I file my company? Should I do an LLC or should I do something different? And so I used a number of resources to kind of figure out what my pathway was going to be and try to figure out how to really push forward. And so, yeah, I had all these early experiences from my mom and my uncle, and I also had a lot of people around me because of the spirit of entrepreneurship that exists in both, Detroit and Philadelphia. And so I just surrounded myself with those people and just learned and connected and created a community there. And it helped me really move my company forward.
Oh, great. So we talked about social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, and I know that you have experience in social entrepreneurship. I would like to highlight your perspective. What's the difference between these two, entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, based on your expertise?
Yeah, I think that like there are like so many ways in which you can have a more socially responsible company. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, that you can have a more socially responsible company. There are major companies that do it because of their like, you know, the materials that they use or how they source it, or you know, like there's like literally like they donate to charity, like a Tom's model or something. You know, there's all these different kinds of models of social entrepreneurship. But what I realized was one part of it that people forget is just like, you know, how diverse are your vendors? You know, like who, like, are you being mindful of, you know, local communities and things like that? And because I was in the group travel industry, I realized that I really wanted to make sure that our company aligned ourselves with vendors that were already doing that social impact work in their own communities. And what I mean by this is I did a group trip to Morocco, and we were doing a cooking class, and it's like something that a lot of people like to do when they go to Morocco. They want to cook couscous and tagine and all these things. And so there's this one school that everyone goes to, and it's a French owned school. And I realized that there's probably other options of more local owned companies. And I ended up finding this women-owned company that they essentially have a cooking school, cooking and hospitality school for women who are either widowed or don't have a partner. And they help them get opportunities to get work in the tourism industry within the country. And so they go to this training school, and then from there, they're able to go and work in these like boutique, like riads. They're this big homes, manors that people like to stay in that are a bit more traditional. And so they create this like pipeline for women to get employment in a country where it's a lot harder for them to be financially independent. And so from that moment on, I realized that there was a possibility for me to not only do business, but also do good business. And I think that that's my distinction of like what it means to be socially, you know, to have a social enterprise, is that you don't necessarily need to like be a charity. You don't have to be giving away all of your money. You don't have to be not making money. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You can be a for-profit company, but be mindful about the space in which you exist, and then figure out like what that looks like for your business, and then tailoring it and making sure that when you're making your decisions, you have your core principles that you have decided, and then making sure that everyone that you work with, that you hire, that comes on, is all aligned with that vision. And so it was really a great moment because I think that as a person of color and someone who comes from a lower kind of status in my country, you know, we always think about charity, and we always want to give away, and we always want to like, you know, do better for the community, but then it's not sustainable because you don't have, you know, sustainable revenue coming in, and you're depending on grants and different types of like government programs. Whereas like when you're a for-profit business that just does good business and you do impactful things in the communities that you serve and where you are, then you actually have, I think, the capacity to do even more, because people are so purpose driven, especially now consumers are trending towards, you know, brands that really care, that really show it, you know, that find ways to make an impact in this world. And so I think that it was a really good thing to happen because it opened my eyes to so many other opportunities, and realizing that I could be, like I said, in business, but also doing good in the world. And you're constantly evaluating it. And you're constantly trying to figure out what these kind of metrics are and things like that. And I think it's industry specific, whatever those metrics might be. But I think that, yeah, it's all about being able to have like a profitable business that has purpose. And whatever way you show that purpose, whether it be through donations, whether it be through, planting trees or giving to communities that need it, or in my case, making sure that I'm not only stimulating the local economy, but also making sure that I'm supporting programs that support economic development, women's empowerment, these kind of topics, things that I'm really passionate about and that my former partners were passionate about. So that's what it is to me, at least.
So women empowerment is important, and I then take this statement will take me to the next question. How different are women entrepreneurs than men? You faced challenges. Do you see some challenges in being a woman entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think that as being a woman entrepreneur, there's a number of ways in which I feel like there are some drawbacks. The first of which is for funding. Women-owned businesses don't get a lot of funding, and they always say like, oh, well, they needed to show a little bit more traction, or they needed a stronger board, or they needed this and that. But then when you realize that there are men coming in with just as little, or maybe the same kind of gaps or holes or things that need to be improved, but then they get the money and then the women-owned business are like, oh no, they need this, they need that. But then it's like a guy and they're just more confident and they just give them the money. And so they just get a lot more of the like venture capital funds than women do in general. And then outside of the funding aspect, I think it's just that as a woman, you kind of come into the room and people, you feel like you have to work really hard to command their respect. And I don't like having to walk into a room and feel like I'm not only trying to prove that my product or my service is good, but also that they can like trust me, and I have to work so extra hard to like make them trust me. And then I have the other part of being a Black woman that doesn't really help, that I'm like a minority and then also a woman and also not from a, high socioeconomic background. And so it's just, you have to be absolutely perfect. You can't make any mistakes. And so that is a little bit of a challenge, because as entrepreneurs, we just fail forward, so you're not always perfect. You don't always have everything together. And so the expectation of Black women or women entrepreneurs to have everything perfect before people can like believe in their idea, I think is crap. And I hope that can change, and I think that there has been some people who have pushed those boundaries, and there's the conversations that are happening, but there's still challenges. And then I think the third part is really just personal, right? Whereas like as a woman entrepreneur, like I would love still to have the kind of traditional life of like having children and a family and all these things. And so as a woman entrepreneur, I have to really consider every expansion or everything that I want to do with my business. I have to think like, is this going to fit within my family profile? Like, is this going to be something that I can maintain and do, even if I am a mom or I do get married, or, I have all these family obligations. And so the guys that I met, they're not really thinking about that. They're just like, I'm just gonna be working in this business as long until it's successful, until I'm a millionaire or whatever. And they're not really thinking about like, well, what if I get married, or what if I have a kid, or how is that going to change my ability to be an entrepreneur? Like me as a woman physically, like I'm literally like out. Like I have to take time off, and I have to like, and I feel like, yeah, it's just like a consideration. And for example, like I was doing my group travel business, and I realized that if I were to continue at the scale that I was going, which means that I wasn't, the people that I wasn't, it wasn't operating without me. Like people still came on the trip because I was there and they trusted me, and I hadn't yet built the trust in the brand at large for it to exist without me. And I could see that as I started looking at other brands that were able to do that, it took them, like at least like 5 to 10 years, depending on what industry they were in, to really establish themselves to the point where the brand speaks for itself. instead of the person behind the brand. And so I knew that I had some challenges ahead of me. And I was thinking, okay, not only is the travel environment, like in 2020 when I had to pause my business, not only is the travel environment tough, and people are losing a lot of money in this industry and it's high risk, but also if I continue down this pathway, I am making it very hard for me to achieve other parts in my life. Like I said, like having kids and doing these things. Like I can't be on the road and traveling everywhere and doing, going to site test and do all these things and collaborate with all these partners and fly all around. If I continue down this path. And so I started thinking like, okay, well, maybe I'll build a company that doesn't require me to be there. And so then that's how I landed on my most recent entrepreneurial venture with the game company, because all the things that I had done before were service-based businesses. And so I thought, what if I create a product instead? Like, I don't have to be present for a product. Like, there's so many systems in place that can help me shipping, and I can outsource, all kinds of things. And I don't need to be present. And so that was really a big consideration of why I decided to pivot and try something different in my space. And so, yeah, as a woman, I'm making these considerations. And so I think that from my male counterparts, they're not necessarily thinking about these type of things. And so not saying that they're not thinking at all. It's just like, for me, it was like a big, big driver, and like what I decided I was capable of. And like when you're building a business, you're committed to it for as long as it takes for it to get off the ground. And for some people, it could be, maybe they have immediate success, and some people, they could be working on something for a decade before people start to realize. And so I thought, oh gosh, say this takes a decade, how am I going to manage that? And so there's just different considerations, at the systemic level, in terms of like how they receive me in meetings and how they take my ideas. And then also just like my personal side of like my family planning and like the expectations are for me as a woman in society. So it's tough.
Yeah, it is a tough word. Thank you so much, Brittany. If there are questions coming from the students, I will invite you to ask. Who wants to ask a question? Open your microphone and please answer a question if you have any. If not, I would like to ask you another question regarding the, how, if you have some advices for our students that are following this discipline, fundamentals in entrepreneurship, they are master students. If you have some recommendations or advices, tell us a little bit about them.
I think that people think that they like need to do like a ton of research and know every little detail of entrepreneurship before they can get started. And I think that's not necessarily the case. Like, yes, you should understand like what the problem is, what the needs are, and like you should be solving a problem with your product. But like, and you do have to understand like what industry you want to work in and do a little bit of preliminary research on like what's kind of happening. But I think that people think that they have to have all these things when they should just get started and just keep learning. Just get started with like, conceptualizing it. It's about action. That's what I feel like. I have a lot of people who reach out to me from my MBA program, people who are in my class or people who are coming in and they have questions about, how did you start these 4 businesses? And I'm just like, I just got started. That's what happened, because a lot of people get stuck in ideation, or they get stuck in like, oh, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. I don't have the money. I don't have the whatever. And it's just like, okay, so yeah, you might not have all these things, but like you can plan it out and say, okay, so what problem am I trying to solve, or what product opportunity do I see, or what service do I see? And then you're like, okay, well then what can I provide? And you start mapping it out. And then you break it down into smaller bits and you see what's manageable. What can I get started on now that will help me kind of build that out and build that story? And whether it's building out the concept and then being able to use that concept to then try to attract investors or, people who are like co-founders or whatever. It's like crafting that story can really help you attract the money, the people, whatever it is that you might need, the resources. So figuring out what is it that you want to provide. And if you don't know what you want to provide and you're like, I don't even know, then, start a little journal and start writing down opportunities that you notice in everyday life, because you never know. You can be like, oh my goodness, I feel like my dishwasher, I feel like I want to be able to put some cups on the top shelf. How do I make that happen? It's just like, and somebody did. You can push it down. But like, just thinking about like what problems do you encounter in your everyday life that could have a solution or that don't have a solution really, or there's not many people in that space that are doing it, and so you might have an opportunity to come in and really assert yourself. So yeah, I say get started because the time is now. The second part is if you don't know, if you just feel like in your spirit that you want to be entrepreneurial at some point, think about, what is authentic to your journey, because the more authentic it is to your own journey, the more likely people are able to like, you're able to build that credibility with others when you start asking for things. Like, for example, with me being in the travel industry and hospitality space for my entire career, when I told people that I was making a company that was a travel themed game company, they didn't even blink an eye. They just thought, okay, that makes sense. Because it's just like when you have someone who has this experience, you've built your credibility and your track record in that space. So if there's somewhere that you have been existing and that you have been contributing to, start there. Think like, okay, so say you've been in some retail, or you've been, doing a food service, or, somewhere that you have been building out your very valuable skill set. See if there's something in that world that you can create, that you can change, that you can make improvements on. And then the third thing is that, like, do not discount collaborating with others who are at the same level as you, because most of the people that have helped me along my journey were not like multi-billionaires. They were people who were entrepreneurs at the same stage as I was, and we were all just like trading services and information, and we created a community of people who just want to see each other succeed. And so don't overlook the people around you who are also doing these things, and use each other as resources and collaborate, and trade services, and all these things. Like, I have a number of folks who are in my network who create content, like they do videos and photos, and they do copywriting, and they design websites, and they do all these type of things. And I literally bartered with them. I was like, hey, if you come on my trip for free, will you build out my whole website? And they were like, absolutely. And so just like,
Great.
so something that could be $5,000, that was then $1,200, And so, bartering, and, I had people who just wanted to see me win because they loved my story. And so there was photographers that gave me rates that they would never give anyone else. And so it's just like, being able to see what resources you have and not necessarily focus on what you don't have, and collaborate. So those are my 3 tips.
Thank you so much, Brittany. The time passed so quickly, and it was a pleasure to be with you today. I hope that our students enjoyed our discussion and my lecture today, and we will have other opportunities to meet Brittany. In case you want to, you can reach her through LinkedIn, her LinkedIn account. You have it there on the slide. And thank you so much for being here with us today. And I wish you all the best luck in the world. Brittany, it was a pleasure, like always, to talk to you, and stay in touch. All the best to all.
So nice to meet you all. And absolutely, if you want to connect and you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. I am available and open, and I will provide very open and honest feedback, or any kind of questions that you might have. I'll be available to answer. And yes, we will stay in contact. See you soon.
Good. Thank you so much.